My hands were shaking so badly I thought I might drop my phone. The front door opened downstairs, but the footsteps coming up didn't sound like my husband's. A tall woman in a gray suit walked straight into my bedroom. She turned her head and looked right at the bathroom where I was crouching behind the door. Her eyes were like ice. She spoke quietly. "Listen carefully. You can scream and call for help right now, and your husband will finish what he started. Or, you can stay silent and let me show you how to beat him at his own game." I never thought my anniversary would turn into this. Crazy, right? Right now, I want you to write in the comments what country you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe so this channel keeps growing and I can share more powerful stories with you. What you don't know yet is that behind this friendly greeting is Maya's nightmare come to life. The anniversary party had been beautiful and exhausting. The grand ballroom at the fancy restaurant, filled just hours ago with 200 guests, sparkling lights everywhere, and endless toasts and music, was now completely empty. Back at their home, an eerie quiet filled every room. Maya stood in their large bedroom looking at herself in the tall mirror on the wall, wearing a beautiful purple dress with silver details shining on the fabric. She breathed in and out slowly, trying to calm her racing heartbeat. This was, she told herself again and again, one of the best days of her entire life. She had finally celebrated 10 wonderful years married to Dante, the man who had stood by her side when her grandmother died and left her the family's huge restaurant business. She gently touched the diamond bracelet sparkling on her wrist. She smiled thinking about earlier that evening when Dante had given it to her in front of everyone. To her he was everything she wanted: smart, kind, someone who went to church every Sunday and worked hard. The perfect husband to share her life with, and also the perfect partner to help run the restaurants her beloved grandmother, Rosa, had left for her. Maya felt like the luckiest Latina woman alive. She looked around the bedroom. Pink flower petals covering their big bed. Sweet-smelling candles burning on the table. A warm romantic feeling in the air. Suddenly, a fun idea popped into her head. Dante was still downstairs in the kitchen making his special late-night snack for them to share. This was the perfect chance to prepare a little surprise. She didn't want to just sit on the bed waiting for him like any regular wife. She wanted to watch him search for her, confused and worried. Holding back a giggle, she picked up the bottom of her long dress and walked on her tiptoes to the big wooden wardrobe standing in the corner of the room. It was a huge closet big enough for her to squeeze behind the hanging winter coats and jackets. Being careful, she pushed between the heavy fabrics, bent down a little bit, and closed the doors, leaving only a tiny crack to peek through. Her heart was beating fast, not because she was scared, but because she was excited thinking about Dante's surprised face when he couldn't find her. She pictured him walking in, saying her name, maybe getting a little worried, and then her jumping out from the wardrobe to wrap her arms around him from behind. She held her breath very still, listened hard, and waited in the darkness. Long minutes of total silence went by. Finally, she heard footsteps coming up the stairs, the sound of the bedroom door handle moving. Maya smiled in her hiding spot and got ready to jump out. Footsteps entered the room. Heavy steps on the wooden floor near the doorway that became quieter as they reached the soft carpet. She counted to 3 in her mind, ready to leap out, but suddenly froze completely. Through the tiny opening in the wardrobe door, she saw the person who had just walked in. It wasn't Dante. The stranger was a woman dressed all in gray, a professional suit, dark shoes, her hair pulled back tight. Her body was slim but strong-looking, and the way she stood didn't match her husband at all. A cold shiver went down Maya's back. Was this a robber? Someone here to hurt her? She put both hands over her mouth to stop herself from screaming, hoping the stranger would just grab some jewelry from the dresser and leave without seeing her hiding there. But her hopes broke into pieces when the woman didn't walk toward the bed or the jewelry box. She locked the door quietly, turned the lock very carefully, and then walked in a completely straight line toward the wardrobe where Maya was hiding with a confidence that made her blood turn to ice. The woman's eyes seemed to see right through the wooden doors as if she knew exactly where Maya was crouching. Maya started shaking all over. Tears of fear made everything blurry. When the woman's hand grabbed the handles and pulled both doors wide open, Maya pushed herself back until she bumped the back wall of the wardrobe, ready to scream as loud as she could. The woman lifted one finger to her lips, telling her to be quiet. Under the bedroom light, her face became clear. Strong features, a firm chin, brown skin, and a small birthmark near her right eyebrow. Her name was Valencia, though Maya didn't know that yet. She wasn't holding a weapon or anything scary. The only thing in her hand was a small recording device. She stared at Maya with serious urgency, with no sign of wanting to hurt her or be mean. Without speaking a single word, she held the device close to Maya's face and pressed the play button. The volume was turned up all the way. The voice that came from the tiny speaker sounded so real it was like the person talking was standing right there in the room. And it was a voice Maya recognized immediately. Dante's voice, the man who just hours ago had told her he loved her in front of 200 people. In the recording, Dante could be heard laughing in a way she had never ever heard before, a mean, cruel kind of laugh. Then he spoke. He said he finally made it to 10 years of marriage, that he almost got sick from pretending to be so loving and perfect for an entire decade, that he was tired of acting like the ideal husband to keep that woman's trust. The recording kept going. Dante admitted he had faked being responsible, going to church every Sunday, being nice to her family members just to look good in front of her and everyone they knew. Another voice jumped in, male, smooth, and weirdly familiar. Marcus, the young man Dante had always said was his nephew from another state, a college student he was supposedly helping with school money. His voice in the recording was playful and sneaky, so totally different from the polite shyness he showed around Maya. Marcus told him to be patient, reminding him it was all for their future together. Then Dante, with an ice-cold and calculating voice, explained his real plan. Now that they had reached their 10th anniversary, the time had finally come. In just 2 months, he planned to break Maya down mentally. He would use the fact that her mother, Carmen, had suffered from terrible anxiety to make everyone believe that Maya had the same sickness. Maya listened, frozen like a statue, as Dante described how he would put special pills into her morning coffee to make her see things that weren't there, have panic attacks, and act strange in public. His goal was to have her declared too sick to run the restaurants, take control of all the businesses, empty the bank accounts, divorce her, and put her in a mental hospital. After that, he said he would disappear with Marcus to start a new life in another country. Maya's entire world fell apart in that very moment. Her legs stopped working, and she slid down onto the pile of shoes at the bottom of the wardrobe. Her face turned as white as paper. Every single word of the recording felt like a knife stabbing directly into her heart. Dante, her husband, the man she trusted more than anyone on earth, was a terrible person. Marcus, who she had cooked meals for and welcomed into her home like family, was his secret partner and helper. Nothing had happened by accident. It was all a careful plan to destroy her completely. Valencia stopped the recording just as the evil laughter of the two men started playing again. She put the device in her pocket and looked down at Maya, who was crying without making any sound, shaking from pain and shock. She bent down to be at Maya's level without touching her, keeping her distance but with strong eyes. Right then, footsteps could be heard in the hallway, a voice humming a happy tune. It was Dante's real voice coming back from downstairs. The doorknob of the bedroom door moved, but the lock stopped it from opening. "Babe, why did you lock this? You getting changed?" Dante called from the other side with that sweet voice that used to make Maya's heart feel warm and now sounded like poison. Valencia stared into Maya's eyes and whispered, barely moving her mouth, "You have 2 choices. First, yell now, make noise and face him right this second. But without real proof ready and with your emotions all mixed up, he's going to turn it around on you. He'll say the recording is fake, that you're losing your mind from stress. His plan to make you look crazy begins tonight and it will destroy you slowly." She paused for a second while Dante called out again, this time a little louder but still sounding sweet. "Second choice, you stay quiet, dry those tears, walk out of this wardrobe and act like nothing is wrong. You play along with his game but in our way. Tonight you will be the perfect wife he thinks you are. You make him believe he's winning while I help you plan your attack. We will ruin him slowly with the same cruelty he saved for you. Choose Maya. Yell and lose everything or stay silent and win. She stared at Valencia with wet red eyes, unable to say anything. Through all the hurt, a tiny flame of anger started to burn. She remembered her grandmother, the restaurants built from her hard work, the pride of the Delgado family name. She couldn't let a liar like Dante steal it all. She took a big breath, wiped her tears with her hand, and nodded her head. She chose to fight back. Maya found her strength. Valencia pointed toward the window, signaling her to fix her face to hide the crying. Silently, Valencia moved toward the window behind the long curtains. Before disappearing, she gave Maya one last look. Be brave, her eyes seemed to say. Maya went to the small mirror on the dresser, grabbed some tissues to catch any more tears, and splashed water on her face from the water bottle on the nightstand. The cold shock helped her think clearly again. She looked at herself, a scared young woman with puffy eyes. She took out some makeup from her purse, covered up the tear marks, and breathed deeply. I can do this for Grandma Rosa, for Mama. I'll be the best actress tonight, she whispered to herself. When she felt ready again, she walked back to the bedroom door. With a hand that still shook a little, she turned the lock and pulled it open. Dante was standing there, smiling big, still looking perfect in his anniversary suit. To everyone else, he still looked like the ideal husband. Sorry, honey. I was just straightening up the room. Didn't hear you, she said, making her voice sound tired instead of broken from crying. Dante walked in, shut the door behind him, and hugged her tight. Oh, that makes sense. I thought you fell asleep on me already, babe. Don't lock the door again, okay? We're partners in everything now. He laughed softly. The smell of his cologne, which used to smell so nice, now made her feel sick to her stomach. The hug that used to feel safe now felt like a trap closing around her. Maya let him put his arms around her, but her own arms just hung there. She couldn't hug him back. Dante, thinking only about himself, didn't notice how stiff she was. You're shaking. Are you cold? He asked, touching her face with his hand. His touch made her skin crawl with disgust. The air conditioner is just really strong, that's why, she lied, forcing a small smile. She took a step back, saying she needed some water. Dante nodded like he understood. Sit on the couch for a minute. I'm going to change out of this suit. I've been hot since this morning, he said, walking toward the wardrobe where his wife had been hiding just minutes earlier. Maya's heart started racing again, watching him pull open the doors, but there was no sign of Valencia anywhere inside. She glanced quickly at the window. The curtain moved just a tiny bit near a crack in the glass, a clue that Valencia had escaped through there. While Dante took off his jacket with his back facing her, Maya sat down on the couch, pretending everything was fine. Her eyes accidentally looked over at the nightstand. There, sitting face up, Dante's phone lit up bright. A new message had just arrived. She looked at Dante. He was still turned away, searching for a more comfortable shirt. Maya leaned forward just a little to read the text on the screen. She felt like time stopped completely on the screen. The contact name clearly said Marcus' nephew, but the message was definitely not something you'd send to family. Great job with your acting tonight, babe. Don't forget your energy drinks to stay strong. You have important work ahead. Love you. The words babe work and the red heart symbol were like getting hit in the chest with a rock. It was proof with her own eyes that confirmed what she'd heard in the recording. There was no way to doubt it anymore. Her marriage was all pretend. Dante's tears when he asked her grandmother for permission to marry Maya at the hospital. All fake. Maya grabbed the fabric of her dress so hard her knuckles turned completely white. She felt the anger bubbling up inside, but she remembered Valencia's warning. Stay quiet and win. When Dante turned around, now wearing a t-shirt, he saw her looking near the phone and his eyes narrowed. Something wrong, babe? Did someone text? He asked, walking over to pick up the phone. She looked up with her best innocent face. No, it just blinked for a second. Probably the family group chat, she answered calmly. Dante checked the screen. Maya watched his lips curl into a tiny secret smile as he read Marcus's message before locking the screen and putting the phone in his pocket. Yeah, you know how my nephews are. Sending congratulations messages all day. He made up quickly, sitting next to her and putting his arm on her shoulders. The night felt like it would never end. Maya had to listen to Dante's sweet words about their upcoming vacation, his ideas for the future, his promises of forever love. Every "I love you" sounded empty and disgusting. She made excuses, saying she had a terrible headache and felt really tired from the long party, avoiding the closeness he wanted. Dante seemed a bit disappointed, but kept pretending to be the understanding husband. "Don't worry, my love. We have many more years together. Get some sleep," he said softly, kissing her head. When he finally fell asleep, breathing heavy and slow, Maya lay there wide awake, staring up at the ceiling, eyes open in the dark. She turned her back to Dante, and silent tears started rolling down her face again. In the darkness, she felt around the couch cushions. Before leaving, she had seen Valencia slide something there. Her fingers found a small hard card. It was a plain white business card with simple black letters. Valencia Torres, private investigator, and a phone number. No picture, no company name. Early in the morning, while Dante was singing in the shower, Maya quietly locked herself in the bathroom, took out the card and stared at it. Her eyes in the mirror didn't look like those of a trusting wife anymore. They had a new toughness in them. The innocent girl had disappeared last night, killed by lies and betrayal. What was left was a woman ready to fight back. With shaking but strong hands, she grabbed her own phone, typed in the number from the card, and sent a message. "It's Maya. Show me how to destroy them. I want them to hurt more than they ever imagined." She pressed send, then erased the whole conversation. She walked out of the bathroom with her head up high. The battle had just started. 1 full week went by since that night had changed her anniversary into a nightmare. To everyone watching from outside, Maya and Dante's marriage looked perfect. Beautiful pictures showed up on social media. Sweet moments, fancy breakfasts. Inside their family home in the nice neighborhood, though, a carefully planned show was happening. Maya had become a really good actress. Every single morning, she smiled nicely at the man she actually wanted to throw out. She let Dante touch her hand, call her my love, while inside she collected a disgust that turned into power for her plan. That morning, the sun made the dining room bright and cheerful, but the feeling was freezing cold to her. Dante was eating the breakfast made by their cook with big bites. Maya, sitting in front of a bowl of cereal, was just moving her spoon around. Dante put down his fork and looked at her with fake concern. "What's the matter, babe? You've eaten almost nothing these last few days. Still stressed about the restaurants?" he asked, reaching across to hold her hand. She felt sick at his touch, but made herself keep acting. "Yeah, I have headaches all the time. I'm so tired with all the papers from Grandma's businesses. It's too much for me to handle," she said sadly with a weak voice, carefully practiced with Valencia. Dante smiled with a happiness so small it almost couldn't be seen. But Maya caught it. "See, I told you not to push yourself so hard. Your health is most important, honey. Remember how your mama started getting sick? Those bad headaches, the worried feelings. I don't want you becoming like her," he said, using the memory of the woman Maya had loved so much to help his evil plan. She had to swallow the anger of hearing her mother, Carmen's name, used as a trick. She looked down and nodded weakly. "I know. I'm scared of getting sick like Mama," she whispered, feeding him exactly what he needed to hear. Around mid-morning, she asked if she could go to the nail salon to try and relax. Dante not only said yes, but acted happy about it as a sign that she was starting to distract herself with simple things. Maya, though, had a different meeting planned. She took a taxi, switched to a different car halfway to make sure nobody was following her, and arrived at a small quiet diner on the edge of town. At the table farthest in the back corner, Valencia was already sitting there wearing jeans and a regular shirt. There were no friendly hugs. Maya barely sat down before Valencia pushed a thick brown folder toward the middle of the table. "Here's what I found from the extra investigating you asked me to do," she said in a quiet, controlled voice. I looked into the supposed mugging your grandmother went through 2 years ago. The police said it was just bad luck, a random attack, but my instincts said something else. Maya looked at the folder with shaking hands, opened it slowly, and pulled out several photos of a dark alley, followed by bank papers. Valencia pointed to some lines with her finger. These are money transfers made 3 days before the mugging from one of Dante's secret accounts to a guy named Luis, a known criminal with a record. Look at the amount. $30,000. Right when Dante had a huge gambling debt of almost $200,000 that needed to be paid fast. Maya covered her mouth in shock, looking at the dates and the money amount. Are you saying Dante paid someone to attack my grandmother? She whispered with almost no voice. Valencia nodded slowly. Your grandmother refused to give him money to pay his gambling problems. Dante got desperate. Dangerous people were chasing him for money. Having your grandmother gone and getting closer to you and the family business was the perfect way to reach the fortune and take control of everything. He's not just a cheater and a liar, Maya. He caused your grandmother's death. Valencia said it without softening the words. Tears filled Maya's eyes again, this time mixed with anger so strong her chest felt tight. The man she shared a bed with every night had organized an attack on her precious grandmother. She made a fist so tight her fingernails dug into her skin. I'm going to hurt him, she said with pure hate. I'm going to make him pay with my own hands. No, Valencia stopped her immediately, looking at her seriously. If you hurt him, you go to jail. Marcus acts innocent and keeps enjoying whatever you lose. There is a punishment much worse than a quick revenge. Let him lose his freedom, his reputation, his money, and his control. Let him sit in prison for the rest of his days. That is real justice. Maya wiped her tears quickly, took a long breath, and let the words sink in. You're right. Getting revenge fast would be too easy for him. He has to live in his own prison. That same night, coming back home, a new challenge was waiting for her. She found Dante in the living room sitting on her late grandmother's favorite rocking chair joined by Marcus. Seeing that man in her house grinning with fake politeness right where her grandmother used to sit made her feel sick. Dante stood up with a super happy look on his face. Babe, you're home. Look, you remember Marcus, the nephew who came to our anniversary. He lost his student housing because of some payment problem. He's all alone in this city. I told him he could stay here for a little while. I mean, the house is big enough. We have extra rooms, he explained like he was doing a good deed. Marcus stood up making a sorry gesture. I feel so bad bothering you, Maya. I don't want to be in the way. Dante is the only family I have nearby. I didn't know where else to turn, he said with that polite voice that was so fake. Maya looked at him closely, young, clean-cut, clothes a little too nice, but acting humble. Behind that good student face, she could now see the snake. She forced a kind smile. Don't be silly, Marcus. Your family. Feel at home. It'll be nice for me to have someone to talk to when Dante is working at the restaurant. We can hang out. She replied with a perfectly sweet voice. Dante and Marcus looked at each other quickly. Relaxed because they thought she was foolishly accepting. They had no idea that Maya actually felt lucky. Having the enemies sleeping under the same roof would make it easier to watch him. That same night, while Dante and Marcus talked on the back porch, Maya snuck into the home office and the living room. She took out several tiny cameras shaped like buttons that Valencia had given her from her purse and stuck them in smart spots behind a family photo in the living room, between cookbooks in the kitchen next to the office desk, all connected to a secret phone she hid in her closet before going to sleep. Now alone, she opened the camera app. The picture of the kitchen appeared nice and clear on her screen. There was Dante making tea, the herbal tea she drank every night before bed. Maya watched him look around nervously, take a small plastic bag from his pocket, and sprinkle white powder into the cup meant for her, mixing it until it disappeared completely. His face, far from loving, showed coldness and focus. Maya recorded the video and saved it. It was the first clear evidence of him poisoning her. She stared at the screen with new coldness in her eyes. Mix your poison, Dante, but not one drop will touch my lips, she told herself. The secret war inside that house had just officially started. The next morning, Dante came into the bedroom carrying a tray, a hot cup, and some crackers. He placed everything very gently on the table next to the bed. "Good morning, my beautiful wife," he said, sitting on the bed and rubbing her shoulder. "I made you special tea. It's a recipe a health expert told me about. They say it helps calm nerves, stops anxiety and stress. I don't want you getting sick like your mother," he added, using Carmen as a weapon again. Maya had to stop herself from throwing the cup right in his face. She sat up slowly, acting exhausted. "Thank you. You're so thoughtful," she answered, taking the cup in her hands. The heat came through the cup, but her heart felt frozen. She smelled it. Behind the mint smell, she noticed a weird chemical scent, almost impossible to detect, that most people wouldn't have caught. Dante watched her closely, waiting to see her drink his poison. She knew she couldn't say no. That would make him suspicious. She needed to fake it. She brought the cup close to her mouth and pretended to take a tiny sip. Then she started coughing like it burned her. "Ow, it's too hot," she complained, pulling it away a bit. "Be careful, honey," he said, sounding a little annoyed under his fake worry. Then his cell phone buzzed on the dresser. Dante turned automatically to check it. In that quick moment, Maya tilted the cup toward a large plant pot with a fern next to the bed and poured almost all the liquid onto the dirt and leaves. The tea soaked in without leaving almost any trace. When Dante looked back, she was already bringing the cup to her mouth, making a final swallowing motion. Then she put it back on the tray nearly empty, with just a bit of liquid at the bottom. "It tastes strange, kind of bitter," she commented, almost testing him. Dante smiled, looking relieved to see the mostly empty cup. "That's normal. Good medicine is always bitter. You'll get used to it. Now go get dressed. You have the meeting with the restaurant partners today. You need to look great," Dante reminded her. He was counting on the drug kicking in during that meeting, so Maya would seem confused and unstable in front of the business people. She decided to give him exactly the performance he wanted, but under her control. From that day forward, she began carefully building the image of a woman losing her grip. In front of Marcus, she pretended to forget where she put her keys, called him by the housekeeper's name, and said sorry with a confused face. 3 days later, during lunch, she purposely dropped her glass on the floor and yelled in fear, saying she saw a dark figure standing in the corner of the kitchen. The broken glass, the scream, her crying, it all looked like a mental breakdown. Dante and Marcus acted perfectly worried. They pretended to care, comforted her, helped her to the couch, but when she wasn't looking, they smiled at each other with satisfaction. "The pills are working better than we planned," Dante whispered to Marcus, sure that no one could hear them. While running the show, Maya continued with her real mission. Valencia had found more information. Marcus kept a secret apartment registered under a fake name where he stored a lockbox with important papers, fake IDs, real names, and certificates for a legal partnership between him and Dante created 5 years ago. It was proof that everything with Maya had been a lie from the very beginning. On Friday, Marcus announced he would be at the library all afternoon studying. Dante had a business lunch scheduled with suppliers. Actually, a fake meeting set up by Valencia to keep him busy. Maya faked feeling sick and said she would stay home resting. As soon as Marcus's car left the driveway, she changed super fast. All black clothes, a baseball cap, sunglasses. She left through the side door where a hired car from Valencia was waiting. The drive to the apartment building felt like forever. Her first clearly illegal action, breaking into someone else's place. She didn't care. For justice, she was ready to cross boundaries. Thanks to a copied key that Valencia had made, she got into the building without problems. Marcus's apartment was on the 8th floor, quiet and smelling like old air. She unlocked the door carefully, turned on a tiny flashlight, and went straight to the bedroom, following the exact directions Valencia had given her. Inside the closet, hidden under a loose floorboard, she found the metal lockbox. She took out a small electronic tool, a lockpicker, and attached it to the box. The lights on the device started blinking, testing different codes. 1 minute, 2. Cold sweat dripped down her back. Please work, she whispered to herself. Finally, a green light turned on and the lid popped open. Inside were stacks of cash, watches, and most importantly, a plastic sleeve with documents. Maya opened it. ID cards with Dante's photo but the name Richard, a fake driver's license, and a legal business partnership paper between Dante and Marcus dated 5 years back, long before he married Maya. This was explosive evidence. It proved the marriage with Maya was done with bad intentions. She took pictures of everything with her phone and placed the original papers in her backpack. She was just about to leave when she heard the sound of the apartment door opening. Someone had used a key. Her heart stopped completely. It was Marcus. She heard him complaining on the phone, telling someone that the library closed early for repairs and he was stopping by his old place to grab some books. The footsteps were getting closer to the bedroom. There was no way out through the window. It was sealed shut and the drop was deadly. The only choice was the closet. Maya closed the lockbox, put everything back exactly as it was, and squeezed into the other side of the closet, hiding behind hanging jackets. She shut the doors almost completely, leaving the smallest crack. Fear wrapped around her like a blanket. This was like her anniversary night all over again. Only now, if Marcus found her, he would probably try to silence her. Marcus walked into the room, still on the phone. Yeah, Dante, I'm in the apartment. I'm getting my textbooks. I think I left them on the shelf, he was saying. Maya didn't breathe. She saw his shadow moving through the crack. He walked toward the desk. Let's see where I put those books, he muttered, opening drawers. Maya closed her eyes tight and gripped the pepper spray in her pocket. She was ready to spray and run. Just then, a loud alarm started ringing through the whole building. The fire alarm began blaring at maximum volume, followed by a recorded voice asking everyone to leave using the stairs because of smoke on the 8th floor. There was no real smoke. It was Valencia who had remotely triggered the building's alarm system. Marcus jumped, stepped away from the desk, and covered his ears. You've got to be kidding me, not now, he groaned, grabbing his bag and rushing out without thinking about the books. Maya heard the front door slam and the sound of people in the hallway running. She waited a few heartbeats, then stepped out of the closet, trembling like crazy. She didn't waste time, grabbed her backpack with the documents, and went down the emergency staircase, mixing in with the crowd of worried residents. Nobody paid attention to a woman in a cap and sunglasses in all the confusion. Walking out onto the sidewalk through a back entrance, she saw a dark blue car with the engine running. She got in and dropped the backpack on the seat. Valencia opened it, quickly looked through the contents, and smiled with approval. Fake IDs, secret partnership, real identity. This is powerful ammunition. We could send them to jail right now, but following your plan, first we make them broke, she said. Maya nodded with fire in her eyes. She didn't just want jail. She wanted to crush their greed and pride, to take away everything they had lied and hurt people for. In the days that followed, the money attack began. As the rightful owner, she had access to accounts Dante didn't even know existed. Guided by her grandmother's old accountant, a trustworthy man, Maya began quietly moving liquid money, cash, savings, investments through small, spaced-out transfers to safe overseas accounts not publicly connected to her so she wouldn't set off alarms Dante was watching. To trap Dante, they used his greed. Maya knew he was desperate to get money together for his gambling debts and keep his fancy life with Marcus. Valencia organized through fake contacts a supposedly amazing business investment opportunity in land that didn't actually exist. They prepared nice brochures, slideshows promising profits of up to 4 times the investment in 8 months. Dante took the bait immediately. One evening he came home super excited with a folder in his hand. Look at this, babe. We got an amazing offer, a huge development project, incredible returns. I just need your signature as owner to release the starting money from the business accounts. It's a perfect chance to grow your grandmother's legacy, he told her. Maya, brushing her hair at the vanity with a blank look, acted unsure. She took the pen he held out. Are you positive it's that good? She asked, her hand shaking just enough to seem weak. Course, I already verified everything. You trust me, don't you? He pushed hurriedly. She signed her name, slightly changing the style from her normal one, so she could claim later she was forced or it was copied. Dante didn't catch the small difference. He was only thinking about the millions of dollars he imagined getting into his hands. He had no clue the money would vanish into the accounts of Valencia's team, leaving behind a gap that would point to him as the guilty one. The next move was to break apart the partnership between Dante and Marcus. Maya knew a relationship built on evil doesn't handle doubt well. She began planting suspicions carefully. One afternoon, while Marcus was watching TV in the den, Maya sat next to him looking distracted. She seemed lost in her own mind. "Mark," she said quietly. "Yeah, Maya," he replied without really paying attention. "Last night, Dante was talking in his sleep again. He's been doing it more lately. But yesterday was really weird. He mumbled something like, 'When we get all the money, I'll need to get rid of Marcus. He knows too much. He's risky. Better to partner with Antonio. He'll be easier to control.' Do you know Antonio?" she asked, acting innocent. Marcus almost dropped the remote control. Antonio was the name of an old business partner of Dante's, someone Marcus had always been jealous of. Marcus let out a fake laugh. "Oh, you probably heard wrong. Dante sleeps like a rock. Must have been a strange dream you had," he shot back. Maya shook her head softly. "I heard it super clearly. But anyway, maybe it was just my imagination. Sometimes my mind plays games on me," she added, standing up. She left Marcus biting his lip, his brain spinning with worry. The seed of mistrust was now planted. That night, the hidden cameras caught a huge fight in the guest bedroom where Marcus was sleeping. He accused Dante of planning to dump him, of having another partner, of threatening to eliminate him once the money came through. Dante, confused about where the suspicion came from, got angry and yelled at him for being paranoid. The argument ended with Marcus slamming a door hard. Maya, from her bed, watched the whole thing on her phone with an icy smile. Watching her enemies turn on each other was an extra benefit. The plan of faking mental illness reached its most important point when Dante decided to speed up his scheme. Overwhelmed by money pressure, his arguments with Marcus, and the missing funds in the accounts, he couldn't wait 2 months anymore. He needed to get legal control of Maya right away. One morning, he caused a scene on purpose. He intentionally knocked over a special vase loved by Maya's grandmother and blamed her for throwing it during an angry outburst. Maya played along through herself on the floor, faking a mental collapse, screaming, crying her grandmother's name, curling up in a corner. The house staff looked terrified at the scene. Dante used the moment to call his lawyer and a dishonest doctor he had already bribed, Dr. Samuel Crane. "Doctor, my wife is getting worse. She's having violent moments. She's dangerous to herself and to others. I need you to come right now to do an evaluation and write a report to request legal guardianship." He whined into the phone, faking distress. What he didn't realize was that Valencia had been recording his calls for weeks. As soon as she heard the doctor's name, she took action. Dr. Samuel Crane's car was blocked on the way to the house in a traffic backup caused by a small staged fender bender. In his place showed up another doctor, Dr. Martinez, a respected and honest psychiatrist from the city hospital, along with 2 nurses from a well-known mental health clinic. They rang the doorbell very professionally. Dante, seeing a different doctor, was caught off guard. "Who are you?" "I was expecting Dr. Crane," he asked suspiciously. "Dr. Crane had a small emergency. He asked me to fill in for him urgently," Dr. Martinez explained, showing his official ID. "I understand this is a serious evaluation. It's not wise to put it off." Dante hesitated for a few seconds. Canceling everything right then meant losing the opportunity he had set up. Plus, he was convinced the drugs Maya had been taking would have left her a confused mess in front of anybody. Confident in his poison, he let them inside. The exam happened in the master bedroom. Maya was sitting on the edge of the bed with messy hair and a seemingly blank stare. "Dante, Marcus," and the lawyer stood off to the side as observers. Dr. Martinez sat across from her, recording device in hand, and began with simple questions: name, date, location, recent happenings. Dante held back a grin, expecting Maya to babble nonsense about shadows and voices. But to his shock, she stopped rocking, lifted her head, and looked at him with perfect clarity. She tucked hair behind her ear and spoke with a strong voice. "Yes, doctor. I hear you clearly. I know who I am. I know where I am. And I also know why my husband is so worried today," she added, glancing sideways at Dante. The doctor continued with thinking tests, memory and math problems. Maya answered everyone correctly, even the hard calculations, and gave a clear story of the last few days without any confusion. Dante started sweating heavily. How could she be so sharp if she had supposedly been taking high amounts of mind-altering drugs? Marcus, next to him, clenched his jaw. After a long hour of testing, Dr. Martinez closed the file. "Mr. Delgado," he said, looking at the husband. "Based on my evaluation, your wife is in excellent mental condition. She shows no signs of serious anxiety, delusions, or confusion. Her thinking and memory are perfect. I will write a report stating she is fully capable of managing her own life. I see no medical reason at all for a guardianship request," he concluded. "That's impossible. She's been taking medication," slipped out of Dante's mouth before he could stop himself. "Taking medication for what exactly?" asked the doctor, raising his eyebrows. "Just relaxing herbal teas," Dante corrected awkwardly. When the doctor and lawyer left, leaving the couple alone for a few moments, Dante was pale as a ghost. Maya stood up slowly, smoothed her dress, and walked toward him like a cat stalking prey. She leaned close to his ear and spoke in an ice-cold whisper. "Your tea tasted funny, Dante. That's why, from day one, I've been pouring it into the dirt of that fern plant in the corner and refilling the cup with regular tea. The only thing hurt by your pills has been the plant, not me," she murmured. Dante's face crumbled. He looked like he was seeing a monster. Maya smiled, a smile that was no longer warm but deadly. "I've been pretending this entire time, and you've been the easiest fool to trick. Enjoy watching your world fall apart," she added, turning around. As she walked away, police sirens were starting to sound outside. Valencia had tipped off the authorities about the fake investment scam. The trap Dante had set to make her look crazy was now closing in on him. The final moment of everything came at the Delgado family restaurant's 50th anniversary celebration, held in the huge event space of a luxury hotel downtown. Thousands of tiny lights lit up a room decorated with white orchids and gold ribbons. Politicians, top business owners, reporters, and major investors packed the place. At the entrance, Maya, in a stunning emerald green gown and a delicate gold shawl wrapped around it, greeted guests with a mysterious smile. Next to her was Dante in a brand new navy suit. His face shiny for the cameras, but his shirt soaked in nervous sweat. Since Dr. Martinez's visit, he had been walking on thin ice. He didn't know exactly what Maya knew or when she was going to strike. She hadn't kicked him out of the house, hadn't reported him to police right away. She made him keep playing the role of co-owner to be there that night to keep things looking normal. On the other side of the room, Marcus drank nervously, wearing a suit that was too fancy for someone claiming to be a broke student. He felt eyes on him from everywhere. Whispers about his presence in the family home were already spreading. The event began with the usual speeches and a video about the restaurant history. Then Maya walked up to the stage. The chatter stopped completely. She took the microphone and spoke with a powerful voice. "Good evening. Thank you for being here on such a special night for the restaurants my grandmother started based on honesty and family values. Tonight we're not only celebrating an anniversary. It's also a night to reveal the truth. When rats enter a kitchen, you don't see them right away, but little by little, they contaminate everything. Today, I want you to meet the greediest person this business has ever encountered. Someone who could have helped it grow or watched it burn. My husband, Dante," she announced. The guests clapped politely. Dante, thinking it was a public thank you, walked up to the stage with a nervous smile. He took the mic and started a speech about future goals, expansion plans, and his respect for her grandmother's memory. He didn't get to finish the sentence. Suddenly, the lights shut off and the room went dark, except for the beam of the giant screen behind them. On the screen, no business charts or happy videos appeared, but a recording, the living room of their house, filmed by one of the hidden cameras. Dante and Marcus appeared sitting on the couch with a bottle of wine, laughing like crazy. Dante's voice echoed through the speakers. He could be heard saying how simple it had been to fool Maya, that she was just as fragile as her mother, that just increasing the amount of pills would be enough to get her locked up in a mental hospital. Marcus was heard asking what they would do if she figured it out, and Dante answering that they could always stage another accident. The guests sat frozen. Shocked gasps came from every direction. Reporters immediately zoomed in on the screen and then on Dante's face, lit up on and off by the video. It didn't stop there. The video switched to images of documents, the fake ID cards under the name Richard with Dante's photo, bank records showing the stolen business money, the secret partnership contract with Marcus. It was a complete public exposure of his crimes. Dante stumbled backward, the microphone falling to the floor. He looked at Maya standing at the side of the stage with no smile at all, with a frozen face of someone delivering justice. "It's all edited, fake videos," he yelled without a mic, with a high and panicked voice that got lost in the angry whispers. He tried to run, pushing past cameramen and guests, diving toward a side exit. But at the emergency door, Valencia was waiting for him, leaning casually against the wall. "Where are you running to, Richard?" "The show's just starting," she said calmly. Dante, out of his mind, swung a fist at her. Valencia dodged the punch easily, twisted his arm and pinned him against the wall. In seconds, several police officers who were already inside the hotel rushed over to arrest him and put handcuffs on him. At the other end of the room, Marcus tried to escape. Seeing Dante caught, he started yelling that Dante had forced him, that he was also a victim, that he could tell the truth against him for the attack on Rosa. He betrayed Dante without hesitation, but it was too late. The evidence clearly showed he was part of it all. Undercover officers surrounded him and pulled him out of the room while he struggled, cried, and cursed loudly. The anniversary celebration turned into a nationwide scandal. Maya stayed on stage watching the two traitors being dragged toward the exit surrounded by flashing cameras and video lights. She didn't feel wild happiness, but a deep sense of peace. Still, she knew trapped criminals could still be dangerous. 2 days later, the news was still covered with stories about the case. However, the legal system had its weaknesses. Despite the pile of evidence for fraud and theft, the accusation for her grandmother's attack required slower police investigation. A smart lawyer paid with Dante's last hidden cash managed to get him a deal for high-security house arrest, claiming health issues and promising to cooperate. Marcus didn't get the same luck. He stayed in a regular jail cell and, angry at Dante's betrayal, started telling everything to the detectives, giving more details that tightened the case around his former partner. Dante, even though out of jail temporarily, was destroyed. His bank accounts were locked, the fancy cars and condo taken away. Rich friends vanished. He was living in a cheap motel outside town, hiding from reporters and people he owed gambling money to. He felt like the victim of a terrible mistake, unable to see that everything he was going through was a direct result of his choices. One night of heavy rain, sitting in the damp motel room, he drank cheap alcohol and stared at an illegal handgun he had bought with his last few dollars. He knew he couldn't leave the country. He was being monitored, and he didn't want to waste away in prison. If he was going down, he wanted to take Maya with him. "I'm not letting you win, Maya." "Not ever," he growled, putting the weapon inside his jacket before walking out into the storm. At 1 a.m., the family home sat in silence with only a few outside lights glowing. After the scandal, security had been improved, but nobody knew the weak spots better than the man who had helped install the old system. Dante himself climbed a section of fence covered in vines near the back, avoided the view of some cameras, forced open a small laundry room window with a metal bar, and got inside. The thunder and the sound of the rain covered the noise of breaking glass. The smell of cinnamon air freshener made his stomach turn, reminding him of the home that wasn't his anymore. He crept quietly toward the staircase. His goal was as clear as his hatred: Maya's bedroom. But as he crossed through the kitchen, the lights flipped on. Sitting at the table, waiting for him, was Valencia. She was wearing regular clothes, wide awake. She seemed to have been expecting him. "I knew the snake would slither back to his hole," she said calmly, keeping her hand near her belt where she kept her licensed firearm. "Get out of my way. This is between me and my wife," Dante shouted, pulling out the gun with shaking hands. Valencia stood up slowly, raising her hands so she wouldn't provoke him. "It's finished, Dante. Police are already coming. Marcus told them your location. Turn yourself in and stop making it worse." "Forget you!" yelled Dante, pulling the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the entire house. Valencia dove to the floor, using the table as cover. The bullet grazed her right shoulder, causing blood to start flowing immediately. Maya upstairs woke up shocked by the bang. She ran out to the top of the stairs and saw Dante with a gun in his hand, completely unhinged. "Dante!" she shouted. Seeing her, he stopped paying attention to Valencia. He ran up the stairs 2 at a time, breathing hard and eyes crazy. "Get over here. We're dying together, Maya," he screamed, completely out of control. She felt scared but didn't panic. She didn't run to lock herself in the bedroom, knowing a regular door wouldn't stop him long. Instead, she ran toward the outdoor terrace, an open area overlooking the backyard. Wind and rain hit her face as she stepped outside. She backed up until the terrace railing pressed against her back. Below, the darkness of the yard and the hard ground stretched far down. Dante appeared at the glass door, drenched, gun aimed at her chest. "Game over. No more cameras, no doctors, no cops. Just you and me," he hissed, moving forward step by step. "You thought you were smarter than me, but you're still the same pathetic little girl." Maya lifted her chin, staring directly at him. The rainwater mixed with the tears she wasn't trying to hide. "The weak woman you thought you knew died the night she heard your voice planning to destroy me. The one in front of you is your biggest mistake," she answered without breaking eye contact. Dante let out a broken laugh. "Mistake? You're nothing but path," he started to say, but didn't finish. From behind, stumbling, Valencia appeared and threw herself at him. The two of them crashed onto the terrace floor, slippery from the rain. The gun went flying into a corner. They got into a brutal struggle, throwing punches, rolling from side to side. Valencia, weakened by the bleeding shoulder, was starting to lose energy. Dante, crazed and fueled by desperation, fought like a wild animal, scratching and hitting her injury. With an especially hard push, Dante managed to break free and crawled toward where the gun had slid next to a planter. Valencia tried to stand up, but her body failed her. "Maya, get inside," she managed to shout, but Maya didn't move back. She watched Dante grabbing the weapon, starting to stand with it. If she ran, Valencia would be his next target. Something sparked inside her. She remembered the quick self-defense lessons Valencia had taught her, the basic moves. She remembered her grandmother and mother. She remembered the terrified girl in the wardrobe and decided she would never be her again. When Dante was halfway standing before he could point the gun, Maya charged toward him and delivered a strong kick with all her power, driving her foot into Dante's chest and then pushing his arm hard. Soaked, standing on wet tiles and off balance, he lost his footing. He stumbled back against the low railing of the terrace, which he himself had requested be that modern short design, and fell over the edge. "May!" he screamed with a horrifying yell as his body dropped. A loud, sickening thud was heard when he hit first against the roof of Valencia's SUV parked directly below, and then tumbled to slam against the concrete patio. The gun fired randomly into the air before landing far away. A strange quiet followed the crash. Only the pounding of the rain filled the air. Maya stood frozen, gripping the railing, breathing hard. She looked down. Dante's body lay in a twisted position on the concrete, barely moving. He wasn't dead. The car had softened part of the fall, but one of his arms was clearly broken badly. Valencia pulled herself up with effort, got to her feet next to Maya, and rested her good hand on Maya's shoulder. "You did what you had to do, Maya," she whispered before leaning on the railing from exhaustion. In the distance, sirens could already be heard getting closer. Red and blue lights began to shine on the house. The fall of a king had been caused by the queen he underestimated. Minutes later, the house was filled with police and paramedics. While they treated Valencia and got Dante ready to be taken in handcuffs to a prison medical center, Maya walked down to the front door. She looked at her husband, that man she had once trusted, soaked filthy with mud and blood, yelling in pain when the officer secured his broken arm to lift him onto the stretcher. There was nothing left in him of the confident charmer who controlled the rooms. He was just a defeated criminal. Maya walked up through the rain to the side of the stretcher. An officer tried to stop her, but she looked at him with strength and he stepped back. She lifted her hand and calmly pulled the anniversary bracelet off her wrist. She felt the cold of the diamonds for the last time before letting it drop onto Dante's chest. The small clink it made hitting his wet shirt echoed in their minds. "Keep it," Maya said with a voice like ice. "Think of it as my final act of kindness. You can sell it to buy snacks or phone cards at the prison store. Because starting today, not a single penny of my grandmother's money will touch your life. Your name has been erased from the story of this family." Dante stared at her with wide, terrified eyes. He wanted to yell insults, curse her, but the words got stuck in his throat. In her eyes, he saw something he had never seen before. Pure power. The man who had always believed he was the one in control now found himself facing a woman who had survived everything he had tried. While they loaded him into the ambulance, in another part of town, fate was also catching up with Marcus. After posting bail money, he had tried to flee the state with a fake ID, buying a bus ticket to a city with weak enforcement, but law enforcement systems already had his face and fingerprints marked as wanted. At the bus station security check, alarms went off. In a few seconds, transit police surrounded him. He screamed, claimed he was innocent, begged for another chance, but ended up with hands cuffed behind his back, filmed by dozens of passenger phones. The video of his arrest went viral at the same speed as Dante's downfall. Back at the house, when the ambulance with Dante and the police cars drove away with sirens blaring, the rain started to lighten. Maya stayed on the front porch watching the lights fade into the distance. Valencia, with her shoulder wrapped in bandages, stepped out next to her. She said nothing. Her presence was comfort enough. Maya looked at her sideways. "Does it hurt badly?" she asked, feeling responsible. Valencia gave a tired smile. "It doesn't even compare to the pain you've carried these months. The shoulder will heal in a couple of weeks. Your heart will take a little longer." Maya nodded. For the first time in a long time, she took a deep breath without feeling a heavy weight on her chest. She smelled the fresh rain, the clean scent after the storm. That was the smell of freedom. 6 months later, the seasons had changed, and so had Maya's life. Justice, though slow, had finally struck with strength. The trial of Dante and Marcus was one of the most watched by the media. In the crowded courtroom, Dante appeared in a wheelchair. The arm never fully healed, partly because of infections he got in jail and partly because of his own refusal to cooperate with treatment. He was thin with early gray streaks in his hair. Next to him, Marcus looked defeated with no confidence left. The judge was firm. Medical evidence confirmed the paid attack on Rosa, the money transfers, the planning of Maya's drugging, the business fraud, the attempted murder with a weapon. The sentence was final. Life in prison for both with no possibility of release. Marcus burst into tears, begging for mercy while they took him out. Dante, though, could only bow his head while silent tears dropped onto his lap. It wasn't clear if he was crying from shame or anger, but it didn't matter anymore. He had lost his freedom, his status, his money, and even his dignity. He had a whole lifetime left to live with what he had done. Leaving the courthouse, reporters surrounded Maya. This time she didn't hide or avoid the cameras. She wore a professional pantsuit, a silk scarf, and a peaceful expression. She answered a few questions calmly, making it clear her focus now was to lead the restaurant group with honesty and strengthen community programs in memory of her grandmother. She wasn't a victim. She was a survivor and a leader. Under her leadership, the business grew. She removed corrupt managers connected to Dante, hired talented and honest people. She strengthened financial controls. In the business community, they started calling her the Steel Rose of the Delgado Empire. Strong but caring. One afternoon, leaving the main office instead of driving straight home, she drove to a peaceful cemetery on the edge of town. The sky was painted in shades of pink and purple. She walked along the stone path carrying 2 bouquets of yellow roses in her hands. She stopped in front of 2 graves cared for with love. The smooth granite headstones showed her grandmother and mother's names. She knelt down, placed the flowers, and ran her hand lovingly over the engraved letters. "Grandma, Mama, it's finished," she whispered. "They paid for what they did to us. The restaurants are safe. You can rest peacefully. I promise I'll protect everything you built." A gentle breeze moved the fabric of her scarf like an invisible hug. Maya closed her eyes and let the calm of that moment surround her. "They'd be so proud of you," said a familiar voice behind her. Maya turned and found Valencia, more casual than usual, in a simple blouse and jeans without her professional jacket. The scar on her shoulder was barely visible under the sleeve. "Have you been here a while?" she asked, standing up. "Just arrived. I brought this," Valencia replied, holding up a clear folder. "It's the final case report. Officially, you no longer need a private investigator." Maya took the folder, but instead of opening it, she looked at her. "So this is goodbye. Our business agreement is done." "No," Valencia said with a small smile. Valencia paused for a moment. Something real had formed between them that went beyond work. She shifted her weight, a little nervous. "Actually, I heard the restaurant group is looking for a new security director they can trust completely. And funny enough, I'm thinking of leaving the detective life. I want a more steady job," she explained. Maya let out a genuine light laugh. "What a coincidence. Though the job has tough requirements," she teased. "The security director has to be available almost all the time and maybe handle a business dinner with me sometimes on weekends." Valencia grinned openly, a smile that made her look younger and less serious. "I think I meet those requirements, especially the dinner part," she answered. They stood together in silence, watching the sunset. They didn't talk about feelings or promises. Maya didn't want to rush into anything again. Both knew that what they had needed to grow slowly on trust and time, not on the rush of trauma. But in the way Valencia looked at her and the peace she felt by her side, anyone could sense the future looked bright. That night, Maya returned to the family home, which finally felt like a real safe place. She went up to the master bedroom she had completely redesigned. Walls in soft tones, furniture rearranged, no memory of Dante. She walked to the new wardrobe, opened the doors, and looked at her business clothes perfectly organized. She remembered the terrified young woman who had hidden in the back of a similar wardrobe, shaking while listening to her fate in the form of a recording. That moment seemed to belong to a different person. She went to the dresser, opened a small drawer, and took out a white business card, Valencia's original card. She looked at it for a moment and smiled before putting it back carefully. She wouldn't throw it away. It was a reminder that she had hit rock bottom, but also that she had known how to climb back up. She closed the wardrobe doors with a firm click. She turned off the overhead lights, leaving only the small lamp on, and lay back in bed. She pulled the covers up, closed her eyes, and for the first time in forever, she fell asleep without fear of not waking up, without fear of being poisoned or attacked in the darkness. The door to her past, with its shadows and hurt, had closed forever. On the other side, a new life was just beginning. If you've made it this far, you already know the cost Maya had to pay for lies. Now, I invite you to subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in her situation. That way, I'll know you want more intense stories like this one. And the next one might be waiting for you sooner than you think.